Hi everyone. Today we're going to go over Dropbox Activity 1. Before I begin, I want to remind you of the instructions for all of the Dropbox activities. This is really to recreate a scenario that we would have in class where I pause lecture and ask students in the class to provide me examples of something that I've just given you a definition. And this is a way that in the classroom setting I can make sure that you understand clearly what I'm looking for with this topic, and hopefully you're learning in the process. Well, actually, in the classroom setting of 99 to 100 students that I have in the fall and in the spring when I teach critical sports studies, I can't actually do this with every student. Only a handful of students raise their hand and I call on them, and then the other students can nod their head and say, oh, I understand, based on the examples the students provide. But with these Dropbox activities, I will read every one of your Dropbox documents and be able to really know whether or not each of you understand this. So in this online class, this actually benefits you a little more with one-on-one interaction and response from me if there is a problem. So this first Dropbox activity, what you will do is you will watch the video or listen to this and watch the screen that I have in front of me, in front of you as well. And then after you go through the tutorial with me, you'll respond to the prompt that I give you at the end of this, and you'll type up a response and drop that, preferably a Microsoft Word document, into the Dropbox, and you're done. These all have to be completed the day that they are assigned, and preferably by 11:59 p.m. Prior to midnight. That's not to say I'm going to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning grading these, but I may wake up around 6, 7 o'clock and start going right to work with these to get them, get your feedback right away. And then I will, after each Dropbox, assign a score, but I won't give you individual feedback unless there was a problem. What I will do is post the feedback generally to the class in the newsfeed of the following day. So if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to send me an email. So this first assignment is about social worlds. We all have social worlds that we live in and that we construct. As you've learned from the first PowerPoint presentation and chapter, and this will be continued in chapter 2 and day 2, that we create the social worlds that we live in. And those social worlds will have cultural characteristics that most members within that social group all subscribe to or in some way identify with or follow, if you will, with these rules or instructions. So when I say social worlds, sometimes people think they're thinking, the social media. Well, you could use Facebook as a social world. I will mine up here. Let's see here. So anyone that would look at this as my social world immediately can get a snapshot of what's important to me. I live near the mountains, or at least I work near the mountains, based on the banner I have up here, the cover photo. In this photo here, it's a group of friends and I. We just finished skiing. We were on our way home, and this friend of mine was visiting, Erin was visiting from Florida, so she wanted to get a picture by this frozen lake. But if you look further, it says there's pictures of me here. Oh gosh, hopefully they're all appropriate here. Let's see, so my boat, picture with my father and my sister. Notice my mother's not there. That says something about my family dynamic. My mother passed away several years ago, so there's something about my social world or my life that might be different. Here, April 22nd, I went to the World Sabaki Challenge in Denver, Colorado. So I'm active in just about any type of sports, or at least participating or watching as a spectator. But if you look down at my friends, 583. There are people that have thousands and thousands of friends on their Facebook page. Well, I've been trying to be a little more selective, but does that mean that all 583 of those people in my social world of Facebook believe in all the same cultural characteristics as I? Most likely not, including my mother-in-law, future mother-in-law. So I digress. The point of this is there are certain cultural characteristics that will truly create this social world that you live in. And I want to show you what those might be right here. I hopefully have this working. Dropbox activity 1. All right. So Nick's social world. You can see that on the left here, I'm from Chicago, Illinois. So there's part of this social world of Chicago, Illinois that I believe in, that I identify with. First, as a Cubs fan, I go to Cubs game. I'm interested in this theater district. The harbor, that might be unique to some people who are not familiar with the Chicago, Northwest Indiana area. That's an area of town referred to as the harbor that's a largely Mexican-American community. That's the community I grew up in, and that's my ethnic background. Raised in a Catholic family, former rugby player, bilingual, and that bilingual part is really important. It's a cultural characteristic of my social world in the harbor, in that part of Chicago where many of us will speak in a English, Spanish, or Spanglish that's sort of combined. And I grew up in a working class family. But here in Boulder, Colorado, my social world has changed. That's where I was from originally, Chicago, and many of my friends and family still live there. But I'm quite different than many of them now, and not necessarily, my daily routine isn't necessarily very similar to theirs. My daily routine is the social world of higher education. Here's where you'll see these start to fine-tune a little bit. These will be cultural characteristics that many are choices and decisions made by myself and who I surround myself with on a daily basis. So I'm surrounded by colleagues who all have PhDs. Most of us are politically active. We all attend academic conferences. The ones that I really call my closer colleagues and friends will attend CU Arts and Athletics with me. Most of us live nearby each other in Denver suburbs, and you would say we are middle class standing. So you can see how that social world has become a little more defined. What I want you to do with this assignment is do what I have here. Two social worlds. One, maybe a larger social world that you were from, that you grew up with. If many of you are 18 to 21, 22 years old, you're going to have a clear idea of what I mean here with the cultural characteristics that identify the social world you're from. But now, as you've been here at Boulder for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years now, you've defined a social world that really identifies you as adults now. And I want you to narrow that focus down. Maybe you're involved in an athletic team here, and your social world is practice, practice, practice. The people that you are around are teammates or maybe other athletes, or maybe you're involved in a fraternity or a sorority. I want you to critique those sort of fine-tuned social worlds that you've created, that you live in now, and tease out those cultural characteristics that are pretty much what I would call rules of participation. If someone is going to be a member of that social group, he or she must subscribe to these rules of culture. Therefore, if you look at the world that I have in higher education, it's not necessarily that I will not, converse with or socialize with someone who does not have a PhD, but largely that is the group that I've identified with now. And if someone is politically active, but maybe not within my political party or my ideological beliefs, they're certainly not going to be part of that world here. And so this is the assignment I want you to do. So you can type this up on a Word document. You can do a PowerPoint slide such as this. Whatever is easiest for you. This is not to be too time consuming, but it's for me to make sure I can examine yours and understand that you understand what social worlds are. And what I want to caution you, one more caution that I will say is, the reason why I do this is when there's a question on the exam like this, someone will say, I'll ask, what are cultural characteristics of someone's social world? And the word might be, someone might write down religion. Well, that's not specific. If someone said Catholic, okay, maybe that social world, that group, most everyone is either Christian or specifically Catholic. So that's what I mean by that. And notice I put bilingual on the left. I could have put Spanish speaking and English speaking. But someone might live in a social world where they believe in English only, for example, and thus that's strict beliefs within their social world. There are many characteristics, cultural characteristics that you can choose, but use this to identify those and then put them on a list here for me. And then tomorrow you can look in the newsfeed and get the feedback on the social world Dropbox activity assignment. Thank you.